we've ascertained the state of the crime scene. Let's find a place to sort out our findings once Malus returns.
Malus?
Seems to me that there are several things that don't add up here.
Apologies for the wait, demoiselle.
So, what did the guards say? Did the criminal escape through the vent?
They believe the odds of that are very low, since the vent leads to the Opera House's basement.
But maybe the basement leads to the sewers.
The guards have checked the area carefully. No one left through the basement during the performance or after the incident, and no one was found hiding there.
So the tunnels become like a secret chamber then. You know, like the kind you usually see in novels.
It would seem so.
The plot thickens. Halsey's disappearance and Cowell's death are both quite inexplicable.
It's okay if Cowell died. I feel like Genshin never does that, where they actually kill someone.
No wonder Farina was so confident in her accusation. All the current evidence points toward Lyney and Lynette.
In other words, the charges are very likely to be upheld unless we make some considerable progress.
Charges and then trial. So if the charges are upheld, they'll announce a sentence?
That's right. This is how a trial goes in the Opera House. During the proceedings, the Chief Justice and the Oratrice will hear statements from both sides.
The Oratrice will too?
That's right. This is how indemnitium is produced.
Indemnitium?
The statements from both sides, the defenses from attorneys, witness testimonies, and even the audience's emotions will all be projected on the Oratrice. To put it simply, it's as if the Oratrice has its own will, and is a judge in its own right.
This also precludes any kind of favoritism on the part of the Chief Justice. And not that this has ever happened anyway.
Fascinating.
Once both sides have finished speaking, the Chief Justice will make his final decision. This, too, will be used by the Oratrice as a reference. Then, finally, the Oratrice will be consulted by officials. The result it returns is the will of justice itself.
Huh? So that machine is the one that actually decides? I thought Neverlet called the shots.
In practice, there is very little difference. Both have always come to the same judgment, which is why people have great faith in the Chief Justice.
I don't totally understand what the Oratrice is, but I think that's probably just because it's been a while since I started this.
The guards also asked me to convey that none of us will be allowed to leave this place before the trial.
Oh, so we're stuck here.
Huh? Why?
Because we've chosen to act as the twins' proxies. That makes us persons related to the case.
They're concerned that we might be colluding with outside parties, or that we might find outside help to disrupt the case. And even if that were not so, it could prove problematic if we happen to spread key information about the case ahead of time.
Paimon thinks they have a point. That said, are they providing food?
Of course. I just hope you don't mind the lack of options. I'm afraid that catering to all tastes is not in the cards, nor is any guarantee of balanced nutrition.
Balanced nutrition? Now's not the time to be picky. Why are you agreeing with that, Hai?
In that case, let's just sort out our findings together here. Pity. I was hoping to take you to try some of Fontaine's famous desserts, too.
I would like to be taken to try some of Fontaine's famous desserts.
I mean, what better way to properly think through our findings than over some tea and sweets?
Navia.
Huh. Breaking out suddenly doesn't seem like such a bad idea after all.
Okay, but I agree with Paimon.
Just kidding, just kidding. Paimon will still do her best, even if there are no snacks.
I will not do my best.
What do you mean, no snacks? Of course we'll have snacks. If we cannot buy some, then we'll simply make some.
Huh?
Ah, maybe Mr. Malus.
But how?
Understood, demoiselle. Everyone, please come with me. I must be prepared to meet the demoiselle's baking needs whenever the fancy strikes her.
I have eggs, sugar, and almonds at the ready.
Good work, you two. Then I'll get to it. Please sit tight for a moment. You'll get to taste my awesome snacks soon enough.
These three are quite the interesting group.
Must be a Spina di Rosula thing. Navia methodically handles the ingredients and pulls fresh macarons out.
And Paimon thought it
They're
was
giant.
good
I don't
while
understand
it's
why the
still
little
yummy.
food in Genshin is always
Isn't
massive,
that
but
anyhow? But these two guys carrying all that stuff around? Paimon thought you'd have them do more during the baking process. But you ended up doing the entire thing by yourself. Beating the egg whites, grinding almonds, everything.
I was applauding.
And I was giving encouraging smiles.
That's not what Paimon meant, but that's okay.
Paimon was just thinking. Aren't you worried about getting your fancy dress dirty, beating egg whites and baking like this?
Opening a snack because they're eating a snack.
Well, I don't think it's carved in stone anywhere that fancy ladies can only read books, sip tea, ride horses, and play the piano. I just really enjoy making snacks. Don't underestimate beating egg whites, by the way. It's a real arm workout. You also need to beat them to just the right consistency, or your macarons will crack.
She's right about that.
Anyway, give these a try, fresh out of the oven. There's 3 for each of us.
Only 3?
They're little faces!
We can assume that Lyney and Lynette were not alone within it. Some criminal also occupied its sealed confines. The magician twins could have committed the crimes, of course, but they lack any logical motive.
Exactly! Why would they do such a thing right when everyone was watching?
The flower vase and the thud we heard during the performance could indicate some altercation between Halsey and the criminal in the tunnel, resulting in the shattering of the vase, the discarding of her clothes, and her abduction. Perhaps the criminal thought that since she was chosen from the crowd, she would be too easy to identify if she was still wearing the same clothes.
Paimon thinks that makes sense, but the real trouble is...
There's no evidence that this third person even exists.
True. None of the clues we found thus far support the existence of this third person. But the only people left to consider are both technically victims, whether it's the missing girl, Halsey, or poor Cowl.
Huh. Could Halsey have secretly made modifications to the magic props in order to murder Cowl before making her escape?
That's right. And even if she had tampered with the setup, she would need to understand the entire trick to pull it off. Nor does she have any motive. The guard said that she has never had any dealings with the magic troop's members.
Were we not thorough enough in our search? From the sound of things, this is turning into an impossible case. Your macarons are amazing though, Navia. They smell great! They're nice and crisp and super sweet!
Even if there's a murder going on, whatever, we have snacks.
They are my specialty after all. And I see you've already had 5 of them.
What? 5? Oh, that can't be right. Paimon only counted 3, honest!
Please don't worry about it. At my age, a few less sweets might actually be a good thing.
Sir? Tate, you're a streamer cat now. How do you feel about that? I think you feel suspicious. Fine, if you ate them, you ate them, Paimon.
Wait,
True.
even you don't believe Paimon? How could you?
That's true, I do not believe you,
If
Paimon.
Paimon ate those 2 extra macarons, then may they turn into stone in her stomach!
All right, we get it. Well, I suppose one of us might have gotten too engrossed in our chat and eaten them by mistake. No big deal. Malus, set up the stove again if you would.
Huh? What are you doing?
Making sure everyone gets 3 macarons, of course.
Oh, there's really no need to do that.
Exactly. We don't want to trouble you.
As you wish, demoiselle.
And I have the egg, sugar, and almonds.
Well, this really is your hobby, huh?
Bobby does a second round of baking macarons. However, the discussion that follows does not
Well,
yield
that's
much
it for
progress.
snack time. I'm going to have another look around the area. I don't know what we're looking for yet, but we've still got some time. As attorneys, I suggest the 2 of you think the case over again.
Probability of third person being involved. Neither Cowl nor Halsey had a motive, but after talking to Navia, the likelihood of a third person being involved seems very low too. It feels like we don't have a lot of leads right now, unfortunately.
Alright, it's time to put our heads together.
Well, now I just gotta wait until the trial on the following day, but I'm not allowed to leave the establishment, so I guess I will just move time forward. Lyney's back!
To be honest, you might be disappointed.
No. We're already very grateful that you are willing to help. Well now, don't you all look disappointed. Don't tell me
Here
that
she
your
is.
investigation
Archon
came out
herself.
empty-handed.
Tate's looking. He's thinking.
That was to be expected, of course.
Look at her two
The
colored
guilty
eyes.
can never produce proof of their innocence. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede so easily.
Just you wait.
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the magic show incident is now in session. Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident, could we please have Mr. Lyney explain the trick?
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. All the necessary items have been prepared.
Lyney clearly reveals the details of the magic trick. Everyone in the audience
Thank you,
is
Mr.
stunned.
In that case, I take your statement to be that you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick began, and thus could not have committed the crime. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
I'm still not sure whether or not to believe Mr. Lyney. I would say I think he's lying, at least about some things.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady Farina, do you wish to refute his statement in any way?
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Lyney is clearly lying. There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and murder Cowell. In fact, I
Put it
say
at the wrong
you
place.
were hardly in that tunnel at all.
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption that I'm guilty.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what did you hear while you were inside your box?
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track of the time and built anticipation for the finale.
And you didn't hear anything else at all? Nothing that might leave an impression of any kind?
No, nothing.
The loud thump. He didn't hear the loud thump. Where was he?
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically everyone heard it.
Huh?
Hey, hang on. Something's not right here.
How could Lyney not know about that sound?
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the box.
I was right by the box, and I definitely heard the thud.
Look at those scales. Could those mean...
They probably represent the Oratrice's stance on the trial. I think the Oratrice is maybe like the public, the audience's stance.
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use the words of the magician himself. You never know what can happen in the blink of an eye. Indeed, it seems his alibi can also collapse in the blink of an eye. Of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and my foundations are rock solid. Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
There! Fatui? This is the spoiler that I had heard about.
No wonder they did something like this.
Ruh-roh.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatsui's doing. Now it all makes sense.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
I don't know, like probably did, Lyney.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. Unless your script already has holes in it.
It's not looking good for us as his
The
lawyer.
Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost too easy.
I love her internal monologue. It is so Sakura from Naruto.
Hey, Lyney. Why didn't you tell us this before?
Lyney and Lynette are Fatui.
Order! Order!
Gasp.
Mr. Lyney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady first, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of the Hearth. Are these claims true?
There's no doubt about a magician's ability to con others. Given how Lyney has concealed his identity, this could all have been set up beforehand. Plus, Child is here. Child, Mr. Tartaglia, is here in Fontaine along with the other house operatives. There must be some scheme at work here. We ran into Child briefly before all of this, and he didn't have much to say. He was just kind of like, hey, want to hang out? Oh my god, I'm busy, bye. I've been a victim of such schemes before, and now...
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
Oof, Lyney.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to this.
I like this
sentencing
audience
already.
member's look.
What should we do now?
Permission to speak, Your Honor.
Granted.
My client has withheld some key information. My defense cannot proceed.
In that case, what is your request?
I request a brief adjournment. There are things that must be discussed.
Is that really necessary? They're already as good as guilty.
Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene in 1 hour.
So you would stick to Mr. Lyney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I thought.
Okay, backhanded compliment.
In that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, the court is adjourned. You meet with Lyney and Lynette backstage in the Opera House. This is awkward.
Well, this is awkward.
He agrees.
I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah, sorry.
Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys.
Kind of embarrassing of us, honestly. Like, they were very suspicious. We just met them 2 days ago.
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Fatui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make you upset. But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
They have this, like... In Fontaine, it's like flooding for some reason. It's some kind of old superstition, I suppose. And Lyney and Lynette are trying to help with the slow flooding of the land, and are like handing out these special pockets to people that I can't remember exactly what they do, but they help them in the event of flooding, maybe escape it. And we helped them out with that earlier. Again, it seems a little suspicious. What are they really trying to do? But they're very much trying to play the good guy card, and I wonder what's really going on there.
That's right.
If they're Fatui members.
I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need to.
But how can we know this isn't all just another lie?
Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me. I am no criminal.
No!
At least, not in this
Why?
case.
I've done it.
Sorry. Please forgive
For
us.
Paimon.
It's so quirky of you.
I'm so quirky.
It's so quirky.
You both say that, but
Explain the other issue first. Where did you actually go while the trick was being performed?
right. Let's
If
hear
we can get
your
some
answer
honesty around
first,
here.
And no lies now.
We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it deliver sentences accurately? during our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is stored.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Kate is on a stool right now. I know it's probably a little hard to distinguish it from the floor. Okay, and what did you find?
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to investigate, I heard someone's voice. Which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I came. On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground, but the countdown was almost finished, so there wasn't time to give it any thought.
Why do you want to understand how the Oratrice operates?
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crisis.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. I swear, I didn't hide anything from you this time. But, like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui, there's nothing I can do to stop you.
I mean, I kind of do. I really don't trust the Fatui. And he just clearly lied to us and everyone else.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
I believe in the facts. I will defend you. I believe that judgment will be dispensed as it should.
Okay.
Say that. It's kind of
Thank
shady.
you.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales are tipped pretty badly against you two. If we want to refute the Hydro Archon's accusations, we're gonna need a seriously watertight defense.
Actually, we already have the key evidence we need.
Huh?
Is it the other voice? The adjournment's almost over. Let's go back. We're not gonna find out right now.
Oh, Paimon thinks she gets what you mean.
Lyney's statement. Lyney claims that he headed to the chamber containing the Oratrice core upon entering the tunnel, and did not witness the crime taking place, and thus did not hear the thud. So he's like outing himself for another crime to try and get out of this crime. The voice in the Oratrice core chamber. Lyney claims to have heard a mysterious voice within the chamber that houses the Oratrice core within the Opera House's underground structures. It's kind of a mouthful. A lot of words in this here Fontaine. The brief adjournment ends, and the nail-biting trial reconvenes.
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Lyney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Lyney's perspective.
Based on the opposition's account of events, you can identify loopholes in their statement. A Danganronpa minigame. Farina versus
Countdown
Hagi.
began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley
I like the art,
passed,
though.
he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that the sound could be heard by everyone in the Opera House, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Lyney red-handed. So Lyney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Lyney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident.
Oh, this paints a really bad picture for Lyney. Good thing it's not true.
And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events. What Lyney experienced and what he saw.
Oh, rare to hear Miss Lumine talk. Lyney entered the tunnel. Identify loopholes. And now we can pick some things. We know he did enter the tunnel, so I don't know that this one is really a lie. Lyney attacked Halsey. He definitely did not. Maybe that's this, Lyney's statement.
According to Lyney,
Nice.
he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey.
Lyney kidnapped Halsey. But he wasn't in the tunnel at that time, as we know, because he was busy doing his business. Maybe this one? No. Could we use this one again? No, we've already used that once. Okay. Maybe we could use the voice?
Lyney went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is the actual truth.
Farina is not going to be so happy when she hears about all this. She also hates to be wrong. Lyney knocked Cowl out. Maybe it's the clothes?
Lyney did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Lyney did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent.
That's if we know the whole truth.
Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
Moreover, I believe my opposition's reasoning is flawed.
My reasoning?
The onstage equipment was clearly tampered with in a premeditated fashion. However, you say that Cowl bumped into Lyney by chance.
If that's the case, then if Cowl hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the entire setup meant to kill? Assuming that what you say is true, Lyney only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you... You're saying that he wasn't?
These are both very harsh. I wish we could be nicer to Farina because I know she's going to be so upset. Oh, and now I can pick a piece of evidence. Okay. Which is the evidence that Lyney wasn't in the tunnel when the crime took place? It should be what he said, I think. Oh, do I have to pick one of these three? I see they're kind of highlighted differently. So I can pick information about the missing lady's identity, strange sound during the magic show, entrances and exits to the opera house. Maybe strange sound?
That's right!
I don't know if I'm allowed to get this wrong.
In the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lyney had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played. To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lyney who committed the crimes, then who was it?
The murderer was... The guard's investigation report indicates that the fireworks released near the end of the show ignited and burned through the rope, suspending the water tank above the stage. This caused the water tank to fall and kill Cal in the box. So many words, so much to think about. Okay. Lyney is no longer under suspicion. Only the other members of the troupe would have been able to tamper with the props. Yeah, what about Lynette? Lyney gave a detailed account of how the trick was supposed to work. By using a box inside a box, the idea was for the box containing the audience member to be transported across via a tunnel underneath, and Lyney himself would also use this tunnel to get to the other side. Having changed her outfit, Lynette and her assistant would take charge of onstage interactions. The clothes belonging to Halsey, the lady who went missing, were found in the tunnel. The reason for this remains unknown. Okay, so I can pick one of these things. Who is the only person who could possibly have committed the crime? No.
Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along?
I don't know, it's hard to say because Halsey hasn't been found. She could be dressed up and masquerading as someone else.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
But he died, so I figure it's probably not him.
Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility?
Lyney did hear a voice when he was down there, so I'm feeling like maybe a third person. I have both this is incorrect. This is so embarrassing. Then I guess
the missing person and an ordinary.
My second guess would probably be Halsey because we haven't found her. Her clothes were missing, and because we feel like there was a mystery third person, like maybe she was the mystery third person. No, it was also wrong.
It's Cowell.
Then it's gotta be Mr. Cowell, the dead man. I guess it's good that he's the one who died, because he was the villain. I don't feel convinced though.
That can't be right. Are you serious?
I did just say it.
The killer was, in fact, Cowell, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
How can we envisage Lyney as having been unable to interfere with the crime?
No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So, where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment.
But we're trying to think about why Lyney couldn't have interfered. Maybe let's click on him.
Lyney was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time.
Maybe let's go ahead and guess that. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's 1 of 4. We're picking 4 clues and we're seeing if they all make sense together. Well, that one seems like a must, like a guess.
The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal.
Yeah, and Lyney didn't hear it. Who's the prime suspect currently? Oh, I guess I didn't realize that there was another question being asked, huh?
The deceased's name is
Well,
Cowell.
Cowell is the prime suspect.
Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel. So, there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. No one entered or left the opera house through its entrances. So, where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey?
Maybe we go with
no one entered or left
the lack of entrances and exits? So that's the only thing that was wrong. Okay, I was close.
It would have been tough for both people to fit.
Maybe the clothes are a good clue because they make it seem like maybe she just blended in with the audience afterwards. Nope. Nope. Okay. Nope. None of them are right. The criminal must have understood the methods behind Lyney's magic trick and must have been in position to easily modify the equipment. Leaving aside how he died, Cal had all the means to commit the crime at his disposal. The strange noise could likely have been the sound of Cal and Halsey struggling. Lyney was not in the tunnel for 1 minute. This would have given time for Cal to bring Halsey out of the magic box in the audience stands. But according to the guard's testimony, no one entered or left the opera house, so even if he had taken her, there'd be no means of exiting. Exiting from the box would have been in full view of the audience, pretty much guaranteeing they would have been discovered.
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
Yeah, it's very unclear where Halsey went.
I see how it is. So this was
I feel like she had to have rejoined the audience in some
and
way,
here
or
I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
magic. Escaping from the water tank. Wait, could it have been the water? There was water in the basement, shattered base.
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Hold on a second.
The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal.
Yes.
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lyney's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water.
So like clue, I still don't know how the water fits in, but you know, this is kind of like how it is in Danganronpa. I don't ever know how it totally is going.
Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Oh my gosh, is this about Hydro?
Oh, just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick.
I requested that we examine Cowell's personal effects. We might find something there.
Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Lyney already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about 2 completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment.
I mean, you're not very trustworthy right now, Lyney, so I don't know if I'm asking you to back me up, but okay. Thanks.
The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps some new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him.
It's true. We don't know his background.
But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress.